Okay, so now you guys can hear us. And we sound better? Do we?
Yes.
Good. Even though I just clipped it on, I'm being so worried. Okay. So anyways, sorry about that little delay to technical issues because we want to bring the best for you, and Roberta only gives the best. So we will stop the show and we will restart it, and that way you can hear us and see us clearly. So we are talking about, and thank you for joining us on TWL Time Warp Live with Steve.
Hello.
Here next to me. We've got Nikki over here, and we're going to be talking about pottery.
Try listening to it.
We're going to be talking about pottery and the different types of pottery. We're going to concentrate on Roseville, Alienware, Hall, Weller, McCoy, and we might show a Shawnee, although I did not bring it. So we will talk about Shawnee another day. We're also going to be talking about Peak Cleaner, which is something that we use religiously here, isn't it, Steve?
Yes.
Something you discovered.
I saw something online about it, and I've used it on a couple of things in different situations, and it's an incredible product. It works really well.
So you're going to see us use it on several different things today on a video, as well as live in person. And then we're going to talk about what you do with that cracked or chip pottery, because a lot of the pottery that we're going to talk about today is, some of it can be 100 years old or more. Are we sounding good?
Yep.
Some of it could be 100 years old or more. And so if you were 100 years old or more, you'd have a few chips and cracks in your life. So why are we throwing away pottery when we keep ourselves? No. But anyways, I heard some terrible news today. So I have this here, as everybody can see, because we want to say, okay, 1, 2, 3.
Norm!
George Wendt passed away today from Cheers, and I had the honor of going to Boston and going to Cheers. It is nothing at all like the show, but the door is and stuff. Before we get into that over there, do you have a favorite moment from his on Cheers? Out of the blue.
Just when you were talking about going to the Hungry Heifer.
So the Hungry Heifer.
Gonna head down to the Hungry Heifer for the buffet.
It's a sad day. George Wendt passes away. We also are going to be talking about not only the pottery, but you're going to be seeing you're going to be talking about marks as well. We got the images of the marks we're going to be talking about, as well as Sunday is Memorial Day. So you will see Time Warp will be at the St. Clair Shores Memorial Day Parade. We do have a graphic. We'll bring that up at the end of the store and with the pinup girls. We're going to have the bubble gunner there. We're going to have a 1964
convertible
Bonneville. A convertible Bonneville. Flew out of my mind there for a minute. And I want to take this moment and thank Dave Marchione for setting up the cars for me, because we don't own a classic car, but I'm like, sure, we'll be in the parade.
I have a classic car. Mine's 25 years old.
Yes, he does have a classic car. And a truck, too, for that matter. And it's got the duct tape to prove it. But
classic.
Yes. And then so we have a lot of fun stuff we're going to talk about. And then I had a dear friend pass away yesterday or Sunday. So somebody I've known for 40 years, and I did a little memorial towards the end that we're going to talk about, that I'm going to talk through because there's no music on it. I didn't want Facebook to say, you don't own that music and shut me down. So I'm going to talk through it.
The woman had the patience of a saint. She was his friend for 40 years.
For 40 years. Since I was 13 years old when I moved to Southern California, she was the third person I met. I still speak to the first two as well. So, but her and I became extremely close. So you'll see that as well. So I'm excited. Anything new happened this week for you?
Just waiting all week to get here.
Waiting all week to get here online. So we've been posting some shorts as well. Roberto's been doing a fantastic job with those shorts. And he posted one today which is hilarious because this is every day here when you come in and visit. They're hilarious. So check them out. You can check them out on our YouTube as well as our actually they're on all the sites, our TikTok, YouTube, stuff like that. And you know what? It's so strange because our YouTube is flying.
Yeah, all of a sudden. I mean, it's always kind of been steady, but it's just.
Can we hear you?
Blowing up. I don't know.
Short. And
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So go
But
on.
oddly
Yeah,
enough,
I'm
we're
like,
blowing
can
up
we
in
hear you?
India.
Yeah. Well, we have a huge huge following in India as well as in America, and several other states and countries that around. You can hear us pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Cool. So so why don't we kick off real quick since since we had a little snafu here about some of the pottery. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw it to a video, and it's going to be the peak, and it's going to show, and what you will see in this video, you guys, and Steve will be talking through the video as well, is they are cleaning a butter print Pyrex, right?
It's a Pyrex piece.
It's the blue butter print.
But it had heavy marring around the bottom ring and around the sides. And that marring is something that in the past I've never been able to do anything about. I've just had to mark things down and sell them accordingly. And since the discovery of Peak, I get better money for stuff.
Exactly. So
We
if there's
restore. We're restoring.
We're
pieces.
restoring.
Right.
So it's a two-part video. So you're going to see the first part, and then you'll probably come back to us, and we'll be over in the pottery area over there, and then I will throw it directly to the second part of the video because it will show you the after effects, and then we will get started over here. So why don't we do that? I think it's 1 minute and 33 seconds long. So why don't we listen to Steve talk about Peak? And
hello, everyone.
Once
again, I'm going to show you the miracle of Peak. This stuff is amazing on Pyrex. I got this bowl today, and as you can see, it's got this cruddy buildup around the lines. It's got it around the bottom edges, and even this spot was. I didn't know if Peak would work on this today, but I went ahead and tried, and it does, so I want to show you. This is where I already started, but I'm just going to show you how right here over this piece, I used Peak and a toothbrush, and that crud line disappears. Just wanted to share, if you have Pyrex and it's hard to clean and you've got it in these crevices with this greasy buildup, this stuff is amazing. It's available out of Canada. It's not something you can buy in the U.S., but you can get it on online, Amazon, any of those. But it works wonderful on Pyrex. Thanks for looking.
Gets utensil marks and stuff off, right?
Yeah, it gets utensil marks.
Silver scratches.
The gray scratches that appear on Pyrex all the time on the inside from the beaters. It's amazing. And if you are into Pyrex, this can really clean up pieces.
It doesn't hurt the decals at all either.
It doesn't hurt anything. And in the past, I've marked things down like this because of this type of not damage, but buildup and use. And
now it looks brand new.
Now I can get better money for the pieces.
Nice.
Thank you for looking.
Okay, we're back.
Hey, so as you see, this is a two-part video. So we're going to throw it to the second part so you can see what the actual outcome is. Then we're going to come back here, and as you can see all the pottery here that we have that we're going to talk about, we've got distinct categories that we're going to talk about. But why don't we go ahead and, Roberto, throw it to that second video, the second Peak video, to show what it is.
Hello, everyone. Steve from Time Warp again. Just wanted to do a follow-up on how that bowl turned out. I told you about the Peak and how well it works on Pyrex. Well, here's the end result. Remember all that crud ring around the top edge and more around here? Look at that. 5 minutes, Peak, and a toothbrush. Just incredible.
Bright white.
I can't believe how well this stuff works. If you're into Pyrex, you need a can of this. Take care, everyone.
3, 2, we're back.
And here's the Peak right here in this little tiny can. Can you believe that? I'm going to bring it a little bit closer.
And it does seem to work on duller matte finishes better. It does work on Roseville and Hull that have the matte finishes, as well as the Pyrex.
And it's the blue liquid inside. So tell me. So we have something. Here's Nikki.
Hi,
everybody. So and Steve here. So I think you can see both of them, all of us, hopefully. So I know that. So have you heard of Peak before we got it here?
Not before we had it.
No.
No.
Okay, because I know you collect a lot of Roseville.
And it's not something we currently carry.
No.
It says before we got here. This is just a can we bought online for ourselves.
Yeah.
Own personal use.
Look at
Yeah,
this.
and when
I
he told me
my goodness.
when he told me it worked on the utensil marks inside of the Pyrex and the other like kitchen bowls, it's like this silvery scratch on the surface So I said, well, I wonder if it works on pottery because it's got what's called pencil marking. And if you can see it, I don't know, Jason, if you want to show the camera this side, it looks like
do it
someone's
this here?
drawn on it. Yeah, that.
Do it from
Yeah.
You want to do it in front of
I
You
mean,
can move it
to
up
the
a little bit.
camera?
Yeah. There you go.
You-
Perfect.
So right here, so you see here, so this stuff, right,
Yeah.
Nikki?
It looks like somebody drew on it with a pencil. It
Okay.
looks like little scratches,
So-
and
Is she good where
Mhm.
she's at?
so there you can see it
Back
doesn't
up a
rub
little
off.
bit.
Back up a little bit.
Right there.
Right there.
Doesn't rub off with my finger. You know, we've tried Windex, goof off, whatever. But just a little bit of polishing with the peak, and it doesn't even take a whole lot of elbow grease, as they say. It's not really abrasive.
It does not seem to be abrasive. And
Oh, it's coming out.
when you do it on the painted surfaces on the exterior of the Pyrex bowls, anything abrasive will affect the finish and dull it. It does not.
Yeah.
So let me ask you, so it doesn't dull the finish.
So I don't think it's an abrasive.
No.
So it must be
Yeah, it
chemical.
hasn't affected any of the glazes.
Mhm.
I mean, like he said, most of the Roseville pieces are matte, but like there's a real good example of that dark pencil, looks like ink scratches. But
So-
it even takes some of the hard water looking marks off of the inside of some of the pottery.
So I will move out of the way so you can go back around.
Mhm.
So it may have a lot more uses we've yet to discover.
I'm quite sure because I know that there's a lot of marring, and I don't mean the knife marks on a plate, but a lot of marring on plates
Yes.
and stuff like that. And we've had where the peak takes the marring off. those
You're talking
plates.
about marring, not
marring.
storing.
No,
Storing is
not
the
knife marks.
Sure.
Because knife marks are dealt
Yeah,
into
that's
the
into the
vitrification.
physical surface.
Into the
But
glaze.
Yeah. So we shouldn't worry about putting it on because Roseville, some of this pottery, especially from Rookwood down, can be really expensive.
Yes, it can.
So, and we do it on all of our pottery. So therefore, you know that it's good for your pottery. Right? So anyway, so that is the peak that we use to clean all of the marring off from the pottery we have. Now we're going to talk about with peak aside, that's peak, P-E-E-K, so follow it.
And it's only available
Yeah.
out of Canada.
Yep. And actually, it's cheap. So you'll have to do the work to find out how much.
Right
Once the
now.
company sees this video, it might go up.
Right. But anyway, so why don't we start with Roseville? Are we still good in the shot?
Yep.
Why
All
don't we start with Roseville? Because one of the things that we like to do here is educate on TWL. And so that you have an idea of when you're out shopping, if you know you're getting a actual Roseville versus a reproduction or a complete fake. And so we are going to talk to you a little bit about how to tell the difference between fakes and reals when it comes to Roseville and Hall. Okay. Then we're going to tell you about a new pottery that we came across, even though it's been around since the 30s and 20s, called Alienware. And then we have a few others, McCoy's, and then, of course, this gorgeous Van Bergel and Hall. Now, there's two Halls. There's H-A-L-L and H-U-L-L. And this is all H-U-L-L, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hall made more kitchenware.
Kitchenware, the plates, the dark brown plates.
Refrigerator
and stuff.
dishes, refrigerator bottles.
Mhm.
That's all Hall.
So you don't want to confuse yourself if you think you're going to looking for something that is H-U-L-L and you come across something in a garage sale or a flea market that's H-A-L-L, two totally different companies, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you two, knowledge right here, especially when it comes to this. Tell me why I shouldn't buy this and I should buy one of those. Let me show you this.
That
There you
one
go.
is a fake of one of the higher priced patterns of Roseville that is supposed to be blackberry.
Mhm.
I've been dragging my boyfriend along this voyage of collecting antique pottery now, and I think he's gotten really good at spotting the fakes now because I said it's kind of like the difference between a watercolor painting and just plain old acrylic paints. The fakes have very sharp delineations. There's no soft like blend between the leaves and the colors.
Well, the translucence of the glaze is lost.
Yeah, it's very opaque. It's very flat. It doesn't look like it has a glazed layer. It doesn't look like it has. So
Show
I
them
mean,
what you
they
mean.
tried with this one. They've got a little bit of a two-tone
Mhm.
going on in the leaves, but
Do I need to
But
bring
that
it closer?
blue is something I've never seen.
no, and blackberry is actually much darker than that.
Mhm.
It's not like a navy color, but then you can see like in
This
the
is
handle
real.
here in this leaf, this is real Roseville.
Mhm.
It's a much softer blend between the colors, and it looks like it's ceramic glaze that is pooled in the darker spots. So you can't really fake that by just making a ceramic pot and painting it.
Mhm.
And then another good indication is
You're going to talk about
the
signs.
bottoms, the markings.
The markings. We do have a graphic that shows the markings underneath of the different Roseville markings. You can bring it up on the phone there when you see
Yep,
it.
I got it.
Okay, so we have a little bit of a delay. So once it pops up, if you can show what that means. And I'm going to show you a couple of, did it pop up yet?
No.
Okay. Of Roseville marks. So there's one there.
Roseville will usually have
There's one
the
there.
pattern will be a number, and then there'll be a size as well,
Mhm.
because most of the pieces they made in numerous sizes.
And then you look here and you see all the writing on there versus this one that's fake that has just the name Roseville on it. So
Okay,
one
so
of
the
the-
image is up. In the top left corner, speaking of really expensive pottery, very, very recently that Futura piece called the Tank just sold for like $40,000.
oh yeah,
So you don't-
look at that.
You
Steve.
don't want to test out chemicals on your pottery.
On your $40,000
Um,
pottery.
But that shows some of the Roseville marks.
go away.
The older Rose Craft was just an R stamp,
Uh-huh.
and that's from like the 1900s to about 1915. The rest of them are going to mostly have the script writing.
Mhm.
Real Roseville, when it's written like this, the S is always on a diagonal. And when they tried to do the fake Roseville mark, the S is straight up. They didn't copy the slant to the lowercase s in the rose part.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Yeah, so that's
This is the
that's
slanted version.
stylized, and then Steve can
Okay,
show you the
yeah.
fake that has the
My finger's at the S. And then this is the fake, and if you look at the S, it's an up and down
it's
S.
straight up and
Now
down.
another thing
Yeah.
that you can tell an older piece, not necessarily a fake versus a original, but if you look at the ring on the bottom,
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
if this thing has been on a countertop or a table for 100 years, getting dusted, sliding, moving, you're going to see the wear, the patina around the ring on the bottom that you're not going to see on the reproduction.
That's right.
That's a good point. I never thought about that.
You always got to look for the patina mark.
Yep.
So,
Or hard water stains on the inside. I mean, people did put plants and floral arrangements in these, so they will have. I mean, this one's still. I just got this one. I haven't even had a
it's
chance.
beautiful.
To
I
clean
haven't
it.
seen that.
It's got dirt inside though. I mean, someone had a planter in there.
So let me ask you, when it comes to Roseville has two lines, right? Well, multiple lines. But
Most potteries
two-
had multiple lines.
And so Roseville's got a utilitarian line as well. So this is your decorative line.
Correct.
So like the White Star planter, that's a utilitarian.
Correct.
So, but then there's Roseanne. So tell me,
Well, basically, you have to look at it from the perspective that many of the American potters settled in the Ohio Valley in the 1890s, and they started making sewer tiles, roof tiles, and sanitary things that would be put in ground and used in commercial grade. Then they started making more decorative pieces in the early 1900s, and a lot of them got away. In fact, McCoy was once known as the Nelson McCoy or J.W. McCoy sanitary pipe or something.
Nelson McCoy, NW.
But what
And,
happened was they all settled in Zanesville because of the clay. So you had all these numerous potters that would settle in the area. for the clay.
Zanesville,
Francoma
Ohio.
potteries in Oklahoma because of the red clay that's available to them.
Francoma.
And very
Oh no,
likely
this is Van
Van
Brickle.
Brickle's Colorado.
It's
But
Colorado.
A lot of these potteries, they concentrated in one area or they settled in areas because of the clay that was available as a natural resource. They started making out these utilitarian kind of commercial grade things for sanitation and for commercial use. Then they got into the decorative. They started making utilitarian ware. But then as the 20s and 30s came, they started making higher end decorative
Like
ware.
this type
Well,
of thing.
they would make pieces that were molded,
What is this called?
and that would be one
That's
type of
Zeffirelli.
utilitarian or
Zeffirelli.
even art pottery. But then they would make pieces that were one-ofs. They were hand-thrown pots. That was what a lot of Van Briggle did.
Mhm.
Most of them all did higher-end hand-thrown pieces that are worth the big money now. So they all had utilitarian lines that you
Right.
could supply.
First.
Yes,
the most
first and throughout.
Uh-huh.
Like you could order a case of Roseville vases, just like you'd order a case of rose vases at a modern florist.
Oh, okay.
And they would have them stocked in the back room with
Well,
all pots or vases.
Most of the lines from like mid-century that people collect
Mhm.
it was like
Mostly
dime store
there.
pottery.
Yeah.
It was like JC Penney's now.
It's-
Flower
Exactly.
pots.
It's funny you say that because one of the most sought after right now, one of the most sought after pottery is from a flower shop. It's the it just flew out of my head. The big animal we have in the window. The big gazelle that's in the window.
Hager.
Hagar, like Royal Hagar. Now, if you worked in if you worked in the floral industry in the 80s and 90s, like I did, all of their pots were pretty much Royal Hagar. Well, now a Royal Hagar can pull huge money.
Well, because they've been around so long, and a lot of their pots are definitive to the decades that they were made.
Right.
So you can look back at 60 years of production and tell what was a 40s pot, what was
Right.
a 50s, because they are what we look back and think back to denote the decade.
Right.
So it's kind of, we just became used to seeing these things to the point that we identify in our minds based on those things that we saw.
Right. Kind of like it feel good. It makes you feel good, so you buy it.
It's
So-
a nostalgic factor.
And Roseville, a lot of people will walk in and they'll look at Roseville and Hall specifically as, oh, those are grandma's antiques.
Right.
Because they've been around for so long.
They were very, very heavily produced. They probably had the most lines available from like the late 20s to late 50s.
But I am
so a lot of it's
seeing-
mid-century in a
Yeah.
similar color pattern. So yeah, people grew up with them. But then some of the really older pieces, like you mentioned, Roseanne, that was when they used to do big, more Victorian-looking
Correct.
decorative vases
Mhm.
with hand-painted florals and animals and people's faces, and that's when the artists used to sign
Their stuff.
their pieces.
Right.
That was like pre-Roseville going commercial.
So I'm holding in my hand a Roseville ashtray,
Mhm.
which is interesting because it's what lily?
Zephyr lily.
This is the Zephyr lily, and you can see that they use the leaves as you would put the cigarettes on. So the reason I'm showing you this is because this is, if this were perfect, what would this be worth, do you think?
I've never seen one.
I've never seen
They're
one
not
either.
that common. In perfect condition, they're maybe 150 to 200.
Okay,
Also depends on the color.
correct.
Color.
Almost
and the
every
flower.
And the flower.
yeah, some of the patterns
Mhm.
had 3 different like color lines. Like there's
Right.
Zephyr lily on blue, there's Zephyr lily on brown. That's the green and pink.
So a lot of people look at Roseville as a higher end pottery, and it is. But a lot of people can't just shell out $150 for an ashtray.
No.
So one of the things that we like to do and make people understand is Roseville, it started in the 1800s, right? Late 1800s, early 1900s. So if you were 125 years old, you would have a little bit of nicks and wear to you. So something like this, which is probably from the 30s, right? 30s,
Yeah,
40s,
30s,
probably. That looks more Art Deco, like it would end up in a, might have a few nicks and chips. Does that mean we throw it out? Do we throw out things just because they have a few nicks and chips? No. But that is also how you can start your collection if you don't have a lot of money. That is how you can have nice stuff, because this has a little chip on it right there. This, I've never seen this before.
This is the most damage I've ever come across on
Right.
a piece. And I got that one specifically for our
And
show, kind of.
If you're looking here, you're probably wondering what damage.
on that side.
So let me turn it around. There is the damage, right? It's chipping
It's
off.
flaking off. The
So-
glaze is just deteriorating.
For somebody who loves Roseville and collects a lot of it,
Mhm.
why would you buy this?
So I've been collecting since I was in high school. Obviously, I grew up in a family of antique collectors, but I didn't have a ton of money. We joke that it's, champagne taste and Miller High Life budget.
Right.
I have what's called cabinet pieces.
Right.
And they call them that because Roseville comes from the arts and crafts era where there were a lot of wood and glass display
Yeah.
pieces to house your collections. And
Go on.
so a lot of my pieces will have a tiny chip somewhere. Like this little one is in very good shape. It
Oh, yeah.
doesn't have much damage, but down here on the bottom, it has one little chip. Most Roseville, Hull, McCoy, they have what's called a display side and a non-display side as well.
So clearly, this is the display side.
That would be the non-display side
In that piece.
in that piece. It's
No,
usually
this one.
Yeah, but
right.
In that piece, it is because it's one flower.
Right, but normally it would be
Yeah.
this.
The design would be a more
Mhm.
elaborate on one side and a little bit more subtle on the other. They're both really pretty. They color them the same. They have the same mold and
Right.
depth, but you know, you would traditionally display the side that has the most floral, and then, but so when you call it a cabinet piece, it's going in my display case. I usually
assuming.
put faux florals in them that kind of match the flower pattern, and it's going to be hidden. So even this basket that has a ton of damage, now I might take some paints and try and like
Well, you're an artist. So you might be
camouflage
able
it a
to
little
make
bit.
it.
Some people do
But
that.
that's all for your
You
own.
can even do a watercolor marker.
But
in a
that's for
sim-
your
yeah.
own.
But this
Yeah.
one, I have cats too. So you know what? This one will get flowers put on it from the
Mm-hmm.
garden on the dining room table, and if it gets knocked over, I don't care. It's not one of my priceless pieces, but I still get to decorate with it.
Steve's got something.
When I
too.
started doing this 20, 30
Right,
years
right.
ago, a lot of this stuff, the people that collected it were somewhat purists, I guess. They didn't want any damage on any pottery, glass, ceramics, but that's changed. More and more people collect and want the pieces that have showed life. Some of them just like them because they get them cheaper, but in the same respect, they do want them. So there is a market for things that were heavily damaged. It's usually reflected in the price. But just looking at the pieces we have out here, I just wanted to make a quick, because this really denotes what we're trying to say. You can tell in these pieces the various makers just based on these shades and colors. This is Van Briggle, it's going to be a darker. This is McCoy, they're always kind of more lighter melded colors. This is Weller, this is Roseville, and this is Hull. But if you look at the different pastel colors and the way they're done, it's really denotes exactly what you're looking for in the different makers and what attracts people to some makers over others.
And they could also go together.
Yes,
they
they
could.
all coordinate well. They do have their own kind of unique signature color palettes, and
Yes,
like
they do.
they-
This is a perfect example.
yeah, the
Mine is
Hull
her.
is very girly pink,
Mhm.
bold daisies, roses, you know, kind of your traditional flowers. McCoy did a lot of berries and
This is
subtle
interesting
leaves
to
and
me
more
that
rustic.
this is a McCoy,
Yeah.
and it is because it really resembles a Hall.
That's a brush McCoy, I think, too. And so that
Mhm.
era, they did a lot of darker. It's
It
like
matches
log
this.
cabiny, like a little more
Yeah.
rustic.
And a lot of this is an airbrush paint technique.
Yeah.
too.
But what's funny, because a lot of McCoys, a lot of people think McCoy.
Yeah,
You know what I
solid.
mean? The cookie jars and stuff like
Mhm.
that. Whereas this style of McCoy easily fits nicely, lives nicely amongst the older pieces.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I started with Roseville, but the little Van Briggle piece that's the only Van Briggle I have so far. But they have their own style too. But the colors all come from the
Let me
same
show you the Van Briggle mark.
mid-century color palette.
Well, one thing you got to remember too is these companies, their glaze recipes were industrial secrets at the time.
Oh yeah.
Boabic, which was a art potter here in Detroit,
Still,
they were famous. Yeah, they're still there. They were
I wish I had one
famous
to show
for their
you.
glazes, their iridescent glazes, and those were things that were taken to the grave by many of their chemists, I guess.
Mhm.
Artists.
You know, and things have been lost
Yeah,
over time. One of the ones that left Puabic and went and did his own thing was, I think it was Jonker, Jonquer, I think. I've got a box done by him with like a lidded box, and the iridescence, the aurora
Oh, I know what you're
borealis
talking about.
iridescence, is just
Yeah.
incredible. But that's the way this was at the time. This was high tech, and not everybody had the same colors and glazes, and that's why these companies went the way they went on different color patterns or different
Right.
color schemes.
So Roseville, make sure you're buying the right one. Take a look. We will post those the marks underneath. We're going to move to McCoy real quick before I hit Hall here. So McCoy, we've got this one, and this one in McCoy. Can you set those back?
Mhm.
Set that behind you. Thanks. Okay. Your standard McCoy, most people think they looks like this, right? It's got the shiny finish.
Well,
It's got
usually,
the it's not matted. It's not old school floral, which this is just an amazing piece to me. I'm shocked it's still here. The Nelson McCoy, and then there's McCoy McCoy brothers, right?
The McCoy brothers was earlier, I believe.
Was earlier. And Nelson McCoy was earlier than regular McCoy? Just McCoy? Or
They kept merging with other companies, and in the 20s they merged
let
with
me show you
brush
the Nelson
pottery.
McCoy.
but that only lasted until the 30s, and then they became McCoy pottery.
And this is the McCoy versus the Nelson McCoy.
But then later, in '67, McCoy was bought by the Mount Clemens Pottery Factory here
Yes,
in
they
Metro
were.
Detroit. And they were there for several years, and then I think eventually it all shut down.
Once, and this much I know, is once McCoy, McCoy merged with who again?
Mount Clemens
Mount
Pottery.
Clemens. Once
No,
McCoy
they
merged.
didn't merge.
Well,
They were
once
bought by.
Mount Clemens Pottery bought, or McCoy bought Mount Clemens Pottery, the other way around. Mount Clemens Pottery bought McCoy. They started licensing them through China. Yeah, they started licensing the creativity of them through China.
There's a Mount Clemens pottery piece that went back to kitchenware.
And it went back to kitchenware, Mount Clemens Pottery, but this is done by Hall. And these, yes, you're right, not Hall. McCoy. These are done by McCoy and Mount Clemens Pottery. The difference with this is these are produced in China.
And they just have their tag as being
They
sold
stamp
in their
it.
store.
Okay, so the difference between something that is Nelson McCoy, or McCoy brothers, they're made here. Where when you start getting into Mount Clemens Pottery with McCoy, it's made in Japan, not China, made in Japan. They're made in Japan, stamped McCoy or
Stamped
Mount Clemens Pottery, because we've seen them with McCoy too from that same. Then these are not made in America. But they're still great
and
quality.
for
And
Mount
they're highly
Clemens
collectible
collectors.
because of
Yeah.
Mount Clemens
Yes,
Pottery.
it's still a local. I have those as cereal bowls, and I love them.
So moving on a little bit, Hall, and I did a little research with her. She is the iconic Little Red Riding Hood. We all know, we've seen these in stores. Grandma's had these.
They made them for probably 20, 30 years.
They be way longer than that, probably, right?
I was just guessing.
20, 30 years would put it in the late 90s. These were made in the
They were made probably in the 40s to
40s,
the 60s.
40s to the 60s. So these are Hall, and let me show you so I can take the top off. They're heavy pottery, so that's not the best. Those are both different. So you can probably see it here that it's got the embossed in there, and it says, and you can see it says Little Red Riding Hood. And these are Hall, Hull, Little Red Riding Hood, and then it says patent pending, and then underneath it says USA, and USA is written in a bold mark. Okay, so these are they are repopping these today, and as you can see,
But it'll be a lot lighter ceramic.
yeah, as you can see these flowers here. These are clearly daisies, poppies, stuff like that, right? If you see one of these. First of all, this is 13 1/4 inches tall. A repop will be 12 inches. Okay. A repop will have reddish orange roses on it. These have poppies. So if you see these that are in a very similar design as this, and they're red and yellow oranges, two-tone roses, it's not a true Hall piece. Also, if it has atomic stars on it, which I've seen,
the starburst.
They've never made
take it
starburst
out of the actual era that it was made in
No.
the first place.
So you want to, we just want to make sure that you can educate yourself a little bit when you are going to shop, because you want to make sure you're picking up the right thing. And so having a tape measure on you would be a great thing, and a loop. Now these are part of the same line, but a different company. These are part of the Storybook, right?
I think they're more modern.
These are more modern. So you will see, and does not mean that you shouldn't buy them, because these are made to go with.
It's like Mary Mushroom. People still love all the original stuff, but they're making new things that go in that entire. You could do your whole kitchen in a theme and get more and more pieces that go together.
The aesthetic.
Not the original.
So these are the bread and butter, pretty much, when it comes to when you're collecting pottery and you want to start with some older antique looking pottery. Roseville is your best go-to, along with Hall. And I want to make it as much clear as possible and get you guys to understand that if it's got a little bit of chip in it, that's okay. It becomes a cabinet piece where you can set it up, because you're really not going to use this for tea.
Yeah.
Are you?
No.
It's much more accepting now to have damage to a piece.
So
they have a little history. They've been places.
The other thing is, when you're looking at a piece of pottery or glass or ceramic, you want to look for hairlines, and they're not always visible.
Right here.
And
one on this piece.
a lot of these have hairlines, but the way now here, let me see that piece.
Is that a good one?
Hold up.
This one too.
So when you're looking at it,
oh yeah, this is good.
tap test. Hear that thud?
Do it again next to this. So it's more
a little bit of a ring, but there is a big hairline right there. Whereas this piece has no damage. And listen, when you hear that ring, that bell, the ring of the bell, that means there's no cracks in this piece.
So one of the things that I'm looking at this, because this is clearly a teapot, right? So there's no lid. We do not have the lid to it. The only damage, the only thing wrong with this piece is there's no lid. The lid is not there. So you and I were talking. One of the things you could do with this, because you are not going to use this for tea, I'd be shocked.
Yeah, I have a few that I put plants in, but I usually use a plastic liner now. I'm not going to put the dirt and the plant right in these.
So what you can do is put a flower frog in this.
Yes.
Because it will hold water. It's meant for water. It's meant for liquid, so it will hold liquid. You can put a little flower frog in it, and you can make an arrangement for the center of your table, or if you're having coffee and tea with the girls or with the guys or whoever, this would make a great centerpiece. You could do that. If you don't want to put water in it, then do a little silk arrangement in it.
Yeah, on the off season, because a lot of Roseville florals are spring and summer flowers, so you don't have them all year.
Right.
Like bleeding heart is one of my favorites. I've got a huge bleeding heart bush in front of the house. I'm going to do some trimmings and put them in a vase, but they're not going to last that long.
Right.
So I will go get silk flowers that match the pattern. So I'll put bittersweet sprigs in my bittersweet pattern. I'll put lilies in the zephyr lily, and you can get any flower you can think of.
Sorry, I just want to make sure we're not missing any questions.
I haven't seen anything.
Okay.
Just some hellos.
So, oh, you can see them too, can't you? Oh, okay. You can click the side chat and it will show you all of them.
Oh, yeah.
So now we're going to talk about Alienware, because we've talked about what you're collecting here. And Alienware is something that Steve and I have just discovered, even though it's been around forever.
Someone came in and sold us a collection of it. They had 13 pieces.
I never heard of it before you guys mentioned it today.
I've
seen it
here,
but I didn't know anything about it being called that.
But it came out in the 1930s. It was made by a Czechoslovakian company called Urbach Ditbar.
Urbach Ditbar. Let me show this close. You want me to show that one?
It's just really unique stuff, especially being as this stuff is 95 years old now. And you would not think of 1930s European pottery having this look, these glazes.
Colors. It looks 60s,
colors,
70s.
It's just, it's kind of deco, but it's not. I'm really surprised it doesn't have a huge following already, because some of these pieces are just so unique.
Made in Czechoslovakia.
Yeah.
They look almost Polynesian, or like there's like a lava flow effect in the crackle.
But I just love this stuff.
See the circle pattern?
It's got
almost
a cool
alien
architectural look.
This looks Mayan to me a little bit.
Yeah.
And there are some people who think that aliens created Mayan
Alienware, this stuff will come up. It's a nickname that dealers and buyers and sellers have kind of given it, but you can find it under that term, Alienware.
And it's really unique, and we've got a ton of pieces of it because we bought an entire collection because we were so enamored with it that it would go with Art Deco beautifully.
Absolutely. And mid-century modern.
Yes.
Because it's got little bits of gold.
It's got a brutalist look.
Yes. And that's very, very mid-century orange. I mean, that's mod.
Brutalist all the way.
It's
and
not
brutalist mid-century.
The block in straight line.
It doesn't have to be, though.
It's kind of a cross between brutalist and deco.
Yeah. It's not, it's chunky.
So I'm interested to know, to the viewers, what do you guys think? Do you like this type of pottery when it comes to Alienware, which is a more unique look, a more, I think a more personal look, something that, you know, I could see a lot of Gothic people who love Gothic stuff to do this.
Mix
like
it with Mediterranean
you could put a couple of gargoyles on each side. Mediterranean style,
it has an organic
Polynesian,
feeling,
like you had
right.
said.
Kind of lava
But
flow.
with that organic feel, I think that,
Yeah.
along those lines. So, you know what? We've got a whole bunch of it. You need to come in and take a look. It's crazy.
And it
Pottery,
doesn't go for all that much either. It's something I think that eventually will be discovered and take off. But for right now, the pieces still go fairly inexpensively.
Yeah. So cool. So any other last words on this stuff and we're going to go over a few minutes due to the fact that we started a few minutes late, which is okay because what did you want to do?
If you start getting into a line and you want to know more about, I pick up Roseville books, even though I recognize it on site fairly well at this point, but
we have the whole internet.
Yeah, we have the internet. We have Google Image. It's helpful, but it'll show you like one whole pattern line, the different colors that came in, the different shapes. So if you're drawn to a certain kind, you can definitely
look and see
what you might be missing. Yeah, these two books specifically are Roseville, but every one of these companies has, and then they'll make new editions, they'll make revisions, but they'll show you the markings, the artist signatures.
So here's my luck.
All sorts of stuff.
Can I tell you my luck? So Steve and I went through and we changed around this whole area for the podcast, right? And so we had, I don't know, 100, 30, 40 of these books, right? Of the different collectible books. And we thought, what are we doing? I kept all the toys here, toy books, but we had these actual Roseville books as well, along with some other ones.
Oh, no,
and
depression glass and kitchenware, sure.
And we decided, you know what? People aren't going to buy these. We're going to have to sell them for $5 each, blah, blah, blah. We had them for 3 and 4 and they weren't selling, right? So Jason, our manager here, he's like, I'll take them to the library for you. And I said, okay, fine. So he took 3 boxes of these to the library 2 weeks ago.
And then I brought these in.
And then now she brought these in. And then the big next fad is going to be, do the collector books. Yeah, I know it. Yeah.
Sorry.
Isn't that funny? No, I love it. So any last words on pottery?
I just want to reference the thing that I said earlier about Nikki and
Weller
being the queen of damaged, and just think of like the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
I like the Misfit toys.
Island of Misfit toys, because so many of these things still have life, and just to write them off because of they're defaced on one side or got a chip on one side.
He's not kidding.
It doesn't make sense to just, and so many people used to just negate them having any value or desirability because they had damage.
Not everybody in this world
now that are making that.
I don't mind the little imperfections you talked about.
You can probably afford to buy the real ones, but you still don't.
But and you talked about purists, like that would poo-poo if they go over this at an antique. They will purposely destroy something like this.
Oh, I know.
They want
and
the
you
market,
shouldn't do that.
They want the rarity to go up. The limited ability to go up, and if they see something that's this damaged, they would consider this ready for the trash.
I get it. I understand.
Why would you keep the population? But
I understand. So here's what we do when we come across stuff like that. That's too damaged to actually put out and sell.
Yeah.
We'll set it aside and we'll either use it utilitarian-wise here, or we will give it to somebody. Because I would much rather see you give something to somebody than to toss it.
Yes,
we have enough garbage in this world. Even though this is pottery and we'll go back to the earth, it will take a long time for that to happen. And I would rather have somebody who can't afford that basket's probably a $500 piece.
Yeah, if it was in perfect shape, the handle's usually what's broken.
Bear in mind that most of this Roseville in perfect condition used to go for 3 to 4 times what it does now.
It is low right now.
It has come down so dramatically, and I think that in part is why
it's starting to get an uptick again.
Some of the people they're not as hardcore about the damage. I get a lot of younger people in that. I'll point out, it has a hairline on it, has a chip because I mark things AI and I want to make sure people know what they're getting. And they're like, oh, yeah, I saw it. Oh, that's okay.
But I'm going to tell you,
it doesn't bother them.
Where's that fake Roseville? It vanished.
The Blackberry, where'd it go?
Oh, it's over here.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is not out for sale. This is fake. This is not out for sale, but I am.
It is.
Well, I have it hidden, so when I do stuff like this,
fake right
but it says fake right on it because we want to make sure you know what you're getting. It's so funny because we got a review, so we have 100 million really good reviews, right? Steve, why don't we go back and have a seat? Okay, you can stay here. We can still hear you.
Okay, I'll put my 2 cents in.
Yeah. So we had somebody do a complaint online that the stuff that they found was broken.
Everything in the
damaged.
store was damaged or broken.
Yeah, for what we charge for it, everything in the store was damaged or broken.
Hardly.
Well, not everything in here is damaged and broken, you guys. It really
But
isn't.
if it does, it says AI on it.
It does say AI on it, and we will point it out to you when you guys come in. And if you pick it up, we will point it out to you immediately, because one thing that we will do is make sure that you walk out of here knowing 100% exactly what it is you have in your hands. Rather, there's a tiny chip on it. Steve will sometimes put AI on something, and it will take me an hour to find it. Honestly,
I've had to ask multiple times. I'm like, this is AI. What is it? What did you see?
and he'll find it, but
sometimes I don't remember either. I got to go back over it with a fine tooth comb to find it again.
and
but
it could be a tiny
I
little
saw
chip.
it the first time, so I know it's there, and I want people to know.
But that's called full disclosure.
It's
Yes.
called full disclosure,
There's a
yes.
difference
And I'm
between
not singing a song, so I'm
carrying
learning this.
perfect things, but carrying, as we've said, desirable collectible things that still have value
Mhm.
despite little flaws, but we
Right.
point the flaws out.
Yeah, because every one of us have little flaws. Every one of us,
You
listen, every one of us has little
can
flaws.
I get a copy of this?
We
on
don't-
tape?
We don't throw away somebody because they have a little flaw. Let's not do that with the product either. And we don't need to keep buying brand new stuff. We got plenty of stuff. And you don't need perfection, even though we all want it. There's no such thing as perfection. Nothing. There really isn't. And we can keep trying to strive for it. You will never be fulfilled. Honestly, look to nature when you look to what you need. There is not perfection in nature. Everything is done in 3s, 5s, 10s. I mean, weird. Be weird. That's the way we want it. Thank you, Nikki.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So we have, and I don't know if you're coming or not. You're more than welcome, but you probably already have plans. This Sunday is Memorial Day, and we have a graphic we can throw up here. We have the Bubble Gunner. I'm so excited. I cannot believe this. The Bubble Gunner is going to also be available to us.
The interior of that sucker was one time in this store.
It was. We did the interior. We didn't do it. We provided the interior stuff. Dave Marchione did it. It showed up
Phenomenal
at
job.
Yes, it showed up at Autorama. It showed up at Hot Wheels. It showed up at all over the place. We also have, like I said earlier, the 1964 Bonneville, and we have the pinups. You see Shelley Galore and you see Lana Lenore. Those are my two main pinups. But we do have Victoria Starr. We've got quite a few girls coming, and I'm so excited because we're going to be running back and forth and doing all sorts of stuff, and the girls are going to be taking pictures with people.
That'll be the first mile of the 2-mile parade.
Yeah, I hear it's the longest or the largest parade in the Midwest, Memorial Day parade. So I'm excited about it. And I know you just saw that graphic, so I'll be announcing the other girls once I get all their information. But yeah, we sent everything in and the cars are ready, and I'm so excited. We went through this little issue where the first car we had, they pulled out. The second car we had wasn't going to be finished in time. And this I found out just the other day, and I was like, oh my God, pulling my hair
I
out.
would have been driving Steve's
My classic.
His classic pick, I know, with them sitting on the cab, right? No, see, if we had to do that, we'd be in rocking chairs on the top. But but now we have two cars. We have the famous Bubble Gunner, which is exciting, a 1970s Shagadelic van, and then the Bonneville. So it's going to be so much fun.
Vintage cars, vintage girls. For the
Yes.
vintage store.
Yes. So earlier this morning I talked about do you have anything else you want to add before we
Go ahead and talk for a
come
minute.
to
Let me think.
well, I'm going to be talking about Sandy. So
Okay.
okay, we can come back right after that in case you have something else you want to say.
Concentrate on Sandy.
Well, you can talk too when we bring up Sandy because you know her. You actually knew her.
I've met her.
Yeah.
Times.
So a dear friend, I'm going to do a little slideshow in a minute because Sandy to me was my sister. She was my parent. She was my sister. She was everything to me because I met her when I was 13, just 3 years after I lost my family. And I had met my mother for the first time shortly before, a couple years before. And I had to start school in Southern California. It was just a rough time for me. And Sandy was the third person I met. And like I said, the first two, Armanda and John, I still talk to them to this day. And she passed away. She had Lewy body dementia, which she was diagnosed with about 7 years ago. And Steve and I went out there and
For her 50th birthday.
50th. But I'm going to play the video because I'm going to talk through the video. Will they be able to hear me through the video? Okay. So let's play the, how long is it?
1 minute.
1 minute. So let me know when you get it going. So it'll be up in just a second, and you're going to see photos of Sandy and I as throughout the years from age 15 to or 13 to, I think in 2017 was the when she attended our wedding was the last. No, I saw her after that. But anyways, Sandy was everything to me, and we stayed very close and very. I would go visit her. She came out. She stood up in my wedding.
We saw her for Cruel World.
We went to Cruel World Festival. I got to see her last major festival with her. And then I want to say, Sandy, if you're listening, and I know you are, thank you for everything you've done. You taught me everything. You did. And I just want to say thank you to Rachel for loving her and for giving her a life that she was meant to have. And if you know somebody who is suffering from Lewy body dementia, hug them every day because it's awful. It's awful. So one of my favorite times with Sandy, I got to tell you, is when we were younger, and oh God, I don't even know where to start. We've done so much together. I can't even think. What about you? While I think of something, what is the time you remember with her? Because you knew her
At the wedding.
At the wedding. Yeah, I know. Tell me about it. So she came to our wedding. She stood up in our wedding. She was in the midst of her dementia, but
always
she
had a smile.
Always had a smile. The one thing I can say about Sandy was tomorrow was always another day. When I first met Steve, he always talks about how I've always been so positive, and thank you. I was always so positive, and tomorrow was another day. I learned that from you, Sandy, because every time you went to sleep, you always said that it takes away everything that happened today because tomorrow you'll get to learn a new way. And so, and then, you know, I remember sitting in 1985, sitting in the dining room of your mom and dad's house after I snuck in and out of the windows because that happened back then. And your mom said, "Come here and let me teach you something." And I walked over there, and I remember her saying, "This is how you really make tortillas." And she pulled the pan off and she threw it aside. She goes, "You do not use a pan for tortillas. You do it over the fire." And she showed me how to do tortillas over the fire. And to this day, that's how I make them, because she taught me how to make them. Have I ever made one for you? No.
And when have you ever
So
cooked?
I do know how to make those, though.
Does not cook.
No, I've learned young in life to date and marry people who do. So, but anyways, thank you, Sandy, for being my friend. Thank you for everything you've done. So, and I know a lot of people are watching, and a lot of people are probably crying. So, I mean, Nikki, you even got to meet her and stuff.
Wonderful.
So,
I can see where she helped.
She did.
You as
She
a,
did.
as a young Jason.
She did that. She did. You know, one time I had a car, and the brakes or the clutch went out on the car. And so me at 17 years old, I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, okay. So I looked at Sandy and I said, let's just leave it. We're just leaving. At 17 years old, it's 87. I'm in the car, the clutch goes out, and I'm like, I'm just leaving it. And so we get on the bus and we leave. And I left my car there. And I never once thought about it again. So years later, I didn't. Isn't that hilarious? At 17, I was stupid. So never thought about it again. Don't even know what happened to it. Years later, Sandy told me, oh no, I took care of it. I called. I had it taken care of. I had it pulled aside. Yeah, I had your mother come and get it, and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, whatever happened to it? She's like, I don't know. Your mother took it. Isn't that awful? She has been. I would write her letters. Like when I would be here, I'd write her letters, and she'd send me back the letter with the red correction marks. I used to love that. Actually, Rachel called me and said, she's up there right now going, that's wrong. That's wrong. She should have been a teacher, but she was a doctor. So, anyways,
For someone who reads as much as you do book-wise, you're a horrendous speller.
Yes, I am a horrendous speller, and it's just getting worse because, you know, the computers do it for you now. Mm-hmm. And so, but anyways, thank you for going down that memory with me, you guys. I wish that I could have had her on the show. But you guys can see, you know, when somebody like that passes, it's hard. So she's up there watching now.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways,
Chuckling.
she's chuckling. She's picking something up ready to throw it at me. Do you know how many times I could tell you that she threw things at people? What did you have to say? Anything? Not just about Sandy, but about.
I don't recall.
No. Nikki, any last words?
I mean,
No.
Just happy to be here.
hug your loved ones.
Yes, hug your loved ones,
Buy
and
flowers and put them in vintage pots.
ending that on a small note, on a good note. In December, Steve and I are going to Washington D.C. because I get to speak to Congress about don't drink and drive, which I'm excited about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so anyways, come on in and shop, pick up your pottery, and don't scoff because it might have a little bit of an issue. 99% of our potteries don't, but we do have a few that needs a loving home that doesn't care if they are a little quirky or weird, because that's the way it should be. Anyways, thank you. Follow us. Make sure you jump over on YouTube and give us a follow, subscribe. Also Instagram, TikTok, and who knows, you might see some cool clips coming out. Anyways, you guys have a great night, and it's a little bit after. You guys have a great night, and Steve,
Thanks for watching.
yes, thank you. Have a great night.
Bye, everyone.